It's either ooby dooby doo or ooby ooby oo. We got some work to do now.
Is he making fun of Scooby-Doo?
He's not making fun of it. He's a fan of Scooby-Doo. Ooby ooh.
Welcome back to This Week in Film. It's the weekly podcast where we talk about the movies we've seen or will see at some point over the past 7 days. I'm Nick Paranto, joined as always by Midwest Matt Lauer.
That's
Matt,
me.
How's it going?
Going all right, Nick. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. I don't have the coronavirus yet.
That's
so
good.
How about you?
I don't have it either, although you might hear me cough occasionally.
Sounds like you have it.
To my knowledge, I'm still good.
You know what I really wanted to watch this week that I just did not have a chance to? No. Is I was going to watch Outbreak and Contagion this week. And I just did not have the time to watch both of them, and I didn't want to watch just Outbreak.
Boy, all the listens we would have gotten. Well, something tells me there's still going to be an opportunity.
Yeah.
Well,
that being said, I have seen 2 movies this week, and they are Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I watched that again. And The Predator from 2018.
Oh, no. Yeah, my views on that movie have changed a lot as time has gone by.
I don't remember what you said.
Oh, I said it was okay.
Oh.
Yeah. What was I thinking?
Wow.
I saw some movies this week, too. I watched 3 movies.
Wow.
I saw a movie called The Forest, and then I saw a movie called Fighting with My Family. And then...
Oh, is that the one with Nick Frost?
It is. And then I watched a movie called Jojo Rabbit.
Oh, you saw that.
Sure did.
Oh, okay. I can't wait to hear about that. Also, The Fighting with My Family. I wanted to see that movie. I can't find where you put The Predator on our old list.
I think I might have reviewed it before we started the list.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. See, like that, I was watching this Predator movie and I was like, 2018? I thought this came out last year, but it's been 2 years now almost. So it's possible. It's really possible.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it anywhere on my list. I think it might have been right before we started.
And I have that information right here. Thank you, Internet. September 14th, 2018.
All right. Well, when did we start doing our list?
I think in December of that year.
Okay.
So
yeah,
it makes sense.
Just dodged it.
Oh, man. It'd be interesting to see where that ended up.
It would have been in the wrong place.
All right. Well, Matt, since you have seen the most movies this week, you get the honor of going first.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, then I will begin with a movie called The Forest, which came out, I want to say, in 2016, and stars a young lady who is in the Game of Thrones. And I can look up her name, but she also was in The Tudors, and most people would think of her as the woman who has very interesting eyes. So let me see here. In the Game of Thrones, she was one of, you know how those people came from, I want to say Dorne. And that's not right. The people from Dorne were the ones who had like poison adders or something like that, right?
The snake women?
Yeah, so not them. Okay, so she was Marjorie Tyrell.
Oh, okay. Natalie Dormer.
Yeah, that's her name. There you go. So she was in this as as 2 sisters who are twins. And her twin has gone to Japan and disappeared. And people think... Yes?
So Natalie Dormer was Marjorie Tyrell, and she came from Highgarden.
Ah, the Highgarden people.
How embarrassing of you to confuse with Dorne.
I am all a blush.
Oh, gosh.
Okay, I just thought I'd give you time to get done.
Well, we were waiting
for me to
stop laughing. We were waiting for people to stop laughing.
Do you think they're done?
Now.
Okay, so her sister went to Japan and disappeared in the suicide forest. And so she goes to Japan to try to find her. And pretty much everyone tells her, hey, look, if she went into the suicide forest, she committed suicide. Don't bother looking for your sister. She's dead. But there's a movie to happen. So she doesn't listen to them, and she convinces this guy to go with her, this dude that she meets there in Japan, not like someone she brought from America. And he's supposed to be a journalist, and throughout the movie, their relationship's kind of all over the place. And it seems like they're kind of flirty at the beginning, but I don't know. They don't necessarily get along real well the whole time. But throughout this movie, there are lots of setups for later things. So as far as the plot goes, you could just say it's one thing set up after another.
Why is this guy following her around if they don't like each other?
Well, some of it has to do with the plot in terms of them like not getting along perfectly well. But it also is like at the beginning when they first start talking to each other, like it's established that she's married and seems like she's supposed to be happy with her husband, but it's hard to tell because of the performances. We'll get to that later. And so this guy and her, it seems like they're flirting together, and you're like, okay, well, why not just have her be single? I mean, she's a protagonist. You're probably not going to be watching her cheat on her husband or anything. Why not just have her be single instead? And if there's some romance there, fine. Or just not. Just don't have it there. She could just say, hey, you seem to know your way around here and you speak Japanese. How about you help me find my way into the forest just for that reason? But anyway, I may be showing my hand a little bit here as to whether I enjoyed this movie or not. So they go into the forest and then quote unquote scary things happen.
Oh, like ghost scary or other scary?
Like jump scary. Yeah, it's just, this movie's pretty cheap in its plot and direction, and all of its efforts to scare you are basically like crappy jump scares. So I've got this broken down into the good and bad. Here's the good. There's a moment in which the lead tells a story to the journalist about some stuff that happened when she was a child. And she tells him one story, but we watch it as it actually happened. And it's actually kind of interesting. I kind of like that she's telling him a story, and the beats of her story go along with moments in what actually happened, but it's just very different events. So she might say, oh, there was a crash, and instead of a crash, it was actually a gunshot. And that was a good moment in this movie. That's it.
Oh, okay.
That's the good. The bad. There's a fair amount of bad in this. I mean, it's not the most incompetently made movie, but there are a lot of scenes that are just delivered as though someone's just basically reciting exposition. So people are having a conversation, but it doesn't feel like a conversation at all. It, like when she's talking with her husband, he's like, well, this is what your sister's like. She is unstable and she does things like go into forests and hurt herself and get herself in predicaments. Listener or watcher, are you listening? Are you hearing the plot? Because I'm setting it up for you. And it's just like that a lot. Anyone she's talking with, it just seems like, here I am telling you the story instead of showing you. There are a lot of weird moments in the movie where you realize that she's talking very lightly about how her sister's probably dead. Like, she's very motivated to be there. She keeps talking about how they have this twin connection and stuff.
Oh, it's her twin. I didn't catch that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And then there are kind of interesting moments because of that, too. Like, there's a moment where she wants to ask someone if they've seen her sister. And she's like, hey, do you think you've seen my sister? Hold on a moment. Let me get out a picture. I'm like, you're identical twins.
I was going to say, are they identical twins or just?
Yeah, they're both played by her.
Okay.
So I'm like, you could just be like, she looks exactly like me, but with dark hair.
Is this back when Natalie Dormer had her cool half head shaved look?
No, that's in the Hunger Games years.
Oh, okay.
So this is, I suppose, after that. So yeah, some of the bad stuff, there are a lot of people in makeup, as scares. Just all the scares seem lazy. It's either a jump scare or someone going, oh, look, I'm gross because I have makeup on now. Like bad makeup. It's kind of culturally insensitive too. Like the introduction to the movie is like, look at how weird Japan is. They eat food that isn't cooked. I'm like, all right. And anyone that she runs into before she gets into the forest is just kind of rude to her. And the ambiguity that you have with the journalist, by the end of the movie, you feel like, oh, maybe, or I felt like, maybe I'm going to figure out, what the deal is with this guy and, why he is the way he is. And then at the end, you're like, wait a minute. I didn't really get much of an answer to that. And sometimes I like not having an answer, but in this case, I'm like, you know what? That would have at least been interesting. I was mildly curious as to what his deal was. Did I mention the performances?
You said you would.
Yeah, they are wood. They're very wooden. Everything is just dull. You didn't know you were setting me up there, did you?
No, did you know I was going to do that?
No, nope.
Oh,
but
that was great.
Yeah, this it works though because it was incredibly wooden. And then the ending is amazingly weak. Like it's just stupid in every way. Like character reactions, there's a jump scare. It has no point. And I guess if anything, the movie's message is that if you have an unstable family member and they go missing, just leave it be. Don't care about your family members who have issues. That's what I took from this movie.
Is she dead?
Do you want me to spoil it?
Spoiler alert.
All right, next 30 seconds
for the forest.
Spoilers. So she goes into the forest. Eventually, she sort of finds her sister. She finds where she has been locked up. And then she's her sister's running away and she's chasing after her sister. And then her sister escapes the forest, but then she doesn't. And then the husband's there because he flew to Japan. He doesn't really do anything, but he's there and he's like, hey, Sarah, wow, I thought you were June or whatever the main character's name is. And he's like, where's June? And she's like, I don't know. He's like, wait, what do you hear? She's like, that's it. Nothing. Which is like, I don't hear my sister being alive anymore. My sense of her, my super twin power has told me she's gone. End of movie. Like just cuts off like right there.
Who was keeping her captive?
At some point, the movie would have you believe that the journalist kidnapped the sister and had her locked in a house. But there's also this Japanese schoolgirl who's leading her around all the time and tells her not to trust him and gets her to kill him. But then it's paranormal. Like when she's chasing her, I'm like, I don't know, maybe he did kidnap her. I guess that's what they're implying here. And then they run away, the sister and the sister, but then she can't, even though she's right behind her, she can't communicate with her or anything. So I'm like, I don't know if he kidnapped her or she kidnapped herself or the forest kidnapped her, but somehow she just escaped. So I guess the forest was like, hey, I'm a forest and I want one of two twins to be here in the forest. Oh, now that I've got this one, I'm going to let the other one go away, get out of here.
It was the forest, like not the captor.
I guess.
Oh, wow. What a twist.
No. Yeah. It was really unsatisfying. I really got no reason to recommend this movie to anybody. Okay. Like as a horror movie, it's not great. For performances, it's not good. So yeah, when we get to the scoring, it's going to be pretty low. Okay. Yeah. Great. Oh, you know what's funny about this though? For some reason I had wanted to see this in the theater when it was out way back when, and I have checked on many occasions to see if it was on any streaming services, and I could just not find it anywhere for I guess 3.5 years now. And then it popped up on I think Netflix, and it was just impossible the whole rest of the time to find it anywhere.
You're trying to hide it.
It seemed like it. It seemed like at some points I was like, man, did I imagine that movie? Was it not called The Forest? Was it called The Woods? But yeah, don't watch it. I don't think it did particularly well anyway.
Didn't we both watched a movie last year? I think we both saw it, where it was like a bunch of English guys in the woods.
Oh, the Ritual?
Yeah. That movie was pretty good.
Yeah, it was good.
I enjoyed that one.
Yeah, it had a kind of a good dark tone the whole time and some decent drama vibes. And then I kind of liked the end. I thought the end was cool, especially the imagery of that giant monster skeleton horse human thing.
Yeah. I kind of remember being like, oh, it's a monster. But still.
I dug it because it was such a crazy, weird monster.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't mind it. I liked that movie a lot. Or I liked it. I'd watch it again.
Yeah, me too. So what did you see?
So I guess the first movie I'll talk about is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse from 2018, directed by Bob Perschetti, Peter Ramsey, and one more credit. I don't know who the third person is. Rodney Rothman is directed by those three guys. And we've gone all over this movie in past episodes, so I'm just going to rehash a couple of things real quick. But God damn it, is this movie fantastic. This is the second time I've seen it since I saw it in the theaters. And I was almost afraid to watch it again.
Yeah.
Just because I didn't want it to not be as good as it was when it was in the theaters. And holy crap, if I didn't like it more than the first time I saw it, I really love this movie. It's so good. It captures everything you would ever want about a Spider-Man movie. It's funny, it's dramatic, it looks cool, it's got a fantastic soundtrack. I don't think there's one wrong step in this whole movie, and I love it. I think it's just great. I still can't wrap my head around how these three different directors were able to agree on a visual style for the movie, and it's just so good. Like what I don't think I realized when I saw this movie in theaters is how it's almost has a stop motion kind of feel to it. And then at times it has is it pointillism, where it's like that old style drawing where it's just dots? Is that pointillism?
Sounds right.
Where sometimes it just looks like that. And it's just so goddamn cool. Like, this movie is so cool, and the voice acting is great. You care about all the characters, and it's just so good. If you haven't seen this, go out and see it. I don't really have much more to add than what we've already talked about, but
I'm glad to hear it's just as enjoyable the second time, because I've been kind of hesitant too, you know, or not really hesitant because I haven't thought about watching it much. Like, I haven't been tempted to watch it, but when I have thought about watching it again, like Karina hadn't seen it and I knew she was thinking about watching it, and it's like, yeah, you know, what if I were to see it again? I kind of was like, yeah, it feels like it wouldn't live up to the first time. And I think I have a sense of like, I felt like between the second and the third act, you know, towards the end of the third or the beginning of the third act, there was a lag. Did you feel that way watching it a second time?
The only part I don't like is when he just decides to become Spider-Man, where he's like, where the movie has to happen, and he's like, I can control my powers now. And he's just 100. He goes from like 10% Spider-Man to 100% Spider-Man in an hour. And that's the only part that just doesn't work for me, but I don't care. You just don't care, because the plot moves along at such a pace that you're like, whatever. Yeah, he's got to become Spider-Man by the end of the movie. So, well, now he's Spider-Man. And all the other Spider-Men are great. What I never realized, and at least I don't think I ever realized, is that Chris Pine is the voice of the original Peter Parker. Did you know that?
I think I must have, because I know that I knew who did the voice at some point, but it didn't stick with me. Like, when you just said Chris Pine, I was like, who did Chris Pine play?
I don't ever remember talking about that. So, like, when we're watching it in the house, he's talking, and he's the Spider-Man that gets his head caved in by the Kingpin.
Right.
And he's talking, and I'm like, this guy sounds just like Captain Kirk. What is this Chris? And so, like, I look it up, and he's like all the way down the list. Like, he's all the way towards the bottom. And then there he is, Chris Pine, Peter Parker. And Nicolas Cage is great.
Maybe I didn't know that. Maybe I just knew who did the voice of Peter Parker, the one that's like running around with the kid.
The overweight one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Jake Johnson.
Okay.
But yeah, and John Mulaney plays the pig Spider-Man. So I watched this with my kids, who I saw it in the theaters with, my two oldest. And man, did they really enjoy it too. They were really into it. And what got us to watch the movie is earlier that day, we were listening to the soundtrack for it. My son wanted to listen to the soundtrack for some reason. And they're rocking out, and I'm rocking out. And we're just like, well, let's put the movie on and we'll just watch it. And then we just ended up watching the whole thing. And it was great. Fun day.
Cool. Well, I'm glad to know it holds up.
Yeah, I was too. I can't wait to watch it again now that I've seen it again, and I'm even more in love with it than I was the first time.
Cool.
So check it out, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. If you'd like a more in-depth review, check our back catalog. You'll find a couple episodes.
Yeah, that's true. All right, then. Well, then I watched Fighting with My Family, which I think is written by Stephen Merchant and maybe a couple other people.
Oh, really?
Yeah, produced by The Rock and some other folks in WWE, starring Nick Frost, Lena Headey, or Headey, I guess, who played Cersei again on Game of Thrones. I don't know. I guess I'm following these people around. And let me tell you who else is in it once I find out. For some reason, I didn't look up everybody's name except for those people that I already knew. So then there is, Vince Vaughn's in it, Florence Pugh, and the guy that plays the brother of Florence Pugh. Oh, there he is. Jack Lowden.
I don't know who those last two people are.
Yeah, well, those are these two people whose names you don't know, and I didn't know till just a second ago, are more or less the main characters of the movie because they are the kids in this family. And so this movie's about the wrestler Paige, who's a WWE wrestler, and how she came to be Paige. So she grew up in this really wrestling centric family, and then they are kind of auditioning and stuff for professional wrestling. And in spite of the fact that her brother, and this is all in the trailer, so I don't think I'm spoiling anything here. In spite of the fact that her older brother is like the main person they're expecting to go to the WWE, she's the one that gets chosen for this like boot camp and potentially try out and maybe even become a professional wrestler. And it kind of goes from there. So I won't say anything that's not in the preview. And that's about it. It's also, you kind of know the end because she's a famous wrestler. So there's that.
Right.
The good is definitely by far the acting. The acting's really good in this movie. Not amazing. I don't want to oversell it as though like this is a great movie to watch if you want to see the best acting in the world, but it's just solid acting. And the rest of the movie, honestly, is pretty mediocre and formulaic. It's got a quirky family. It's kind of got like if you watched like the old Roseanne show back in the day, it's kind of got a feel like that. It's a little bit more over the top, and because they're always wrestling and stuff and they're all about wrestling, but it's like kind of this gritty family, might fit into the same world as like if you watch the show Shameless, like stuff like that. Or like the Bundys. It's got kind of a Married with Children sort of feel to it. But even without me saying much more, you can probably spell out all of the beats in this movie. And that was disappointing.
Can I try?
Oh, be my guest, yeah.
Okay, so let's see.
Possible spoiler alert.
It's possible spoilers. All right, so it starts off, is she in school? Like high school?
You know what? It doesn't really tell you, I don't think, but that's about the age.
Okay. And she gets home, roughhouses with the family, and then they see a commercial on the internet about wrestling tryouts.
No. This family actually has a gym where they do this like fake local, it's like seeing a local play at your, nonprofit playhouse. And they've got this gym where they teach wrestling and do wrestling and pay, try to get people to come in and pay for tickets and stuff. So it's already very geared towards the son becoming a professional wrestler.
Oh, okay. So they're not just into wrestling. They are wrestlers. They're just not WWE level.
Right. Yeah, they are super fans. They're basically super fans that who just got sucked into it so much that that's how they make what's sort of their living, but they don't really have a lot of money.
Okay. And so a promoter comes by to say, hey, we're having these auditions?
They're seeking out auditions. It's implied that they've been seeking out auditions for quite some time, but they do finally get called in by Vince Vaughn.
Okay. They don't initially want to go because that's selling out.
No, they totally want to go. Wow, this is less formulaic than I thought, I guess.
I think I'm trying to be clever.
Yeah, this movie's not. It's not trying to be clever. It's just they want this thing. She gets in. He doesn't. That's
right. I was going to say, so they go to the audition and he has a mediocre audition where they're like, oh, whatever. And then for some reason, she gets into a fight with somebody and they're like, say, she can fight? Is that
No. Not really.
Does she audition too? She just auditions and she gets
they both audition and they're expecting, him to get in and maybe she would or not. But then, I mean, again, this is all in the preview. Like Vince Vaughn's like, okay, if I say your name, step forward. Paige. Thanks, everybody. And she's like, wait, you have to take my brother too. And he's like, no, just you. Does
the brother get real indignant over it eventually? Like they have a falling out and then eventually they make up?
There you go. That's the movie.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Except, I mean, you get to see her go through some trials and tribulations. But as far as the whole family thing, like, yeah, it pretty much follows that arc.
Okay, that was fun.
And like I said, the acting's good. It's a little weird, though. One of the things, the notice that I put down that's kind of just odd is that the brother and sister are very good actors, but their chemistry seems to feel, even though they're like kind of at odds brother and sister, kind of feels romantic. So it's kind of like, I'm just like, I think these actors like each other. I think that's all that's going on there. But the family is pretty likable, kind of cute. It's not as funny as I expected either. I think it's supposed to be, but there aren't really many jokes made. If you're going to be laughing, you're just going to be kind of laughing in a, these guys are an interesting group of people. It's not really because they do or say anything that's super funny. There were a couple times that I kind of giggled out loud, but not much. So at the end of the day, is it worth watching? I guess. The main character, the girl who plays Paige, is really good. She's pretty likable, and I don't know. I can't really say like you should see it though. If you're interested, watch it. You won't be upset. If you're not interested, don't bother because it's so routine. It's just You've seen this movie before 800 other ways.
Does it give you like a neat behind the curtain look of professional wrestling at all, or does it feel pretty sugar coated?
No, if you want to see a movie that tells you more about the behind the scenes stuff with wrestling, I'd say watch Bigger, Faster, Stronger, the documentary on steroids. But this is, or maybe even like The Wrestler with
I was gonna say, or if you want to be really depressed, watch The Wrestler.
Yeah, super depressing. Yeah, this is like the sweet antidote to The Wrestler. But yeah, I wouldn't say it feels much like you're getting a genuine peek behind the scenes. I mean, there are events, and at the end when the credits are going on, you get to see a little bit of the characters or the people that it's based on, like actually talking, and you can see that a little bit of the dialogue in the movie was taken right from interviews with these people. But if you're seeing anything that's really behind the scenes there, it's more like, oh, I'm getting to see behind the scenes of these people more than like wrestling. So yeah, don't go into it looking for like you're going to learn something about the WWE or how it works.
Right.
The Rock's in it a little bit. He seems to be having some fun.
That's always good.
Yeah.
When The Rock has fun, I usually do too. When he doesn't have fun, I don't.
Yeah, you might enjoy it because for the most part, I think the family's kind of a team. So you like that sort of stuff. There is some conflict, obviously, with the brother, but you know where it's going to go. And it's pretty lighthearted. Stephen Merchant and his wife play some peripheral family members, like people who are kind of being invited into the family. And they're kind of funny, but they're basically like, if you ever saw the movie My Big Fat Greek Wedding, they are the parents of the guy that she's going to marry at the end.
Nah.
Yeah. Well, basically, they're like, wow, they're weird. They're Greek. And then at the end, one of them smashes a plate and goes, oh, when in Greece, do as the Grecians do or something.
We're all family now.
Yeah, some sort of hokey, like, I guess we fit in now. Ha 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 ha. I made a funny. And they turn into Splinter. I don't know. This movie's getting like a C.
I had a thought earlier this week. This is going completely off topic.
Excellent.
But imagine, if you will, a world where the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles happens, right?
Okay.
But Splinter wasn't there. Like, that guy, depending on if it's the movie or the cartoon, there's not a guy who turns into a rat, or the rat doesn't turn into a half man or whatever.
The rat just grows.
Or there's just no rat, and it's just these 4 turtles get covered in the ooze, and then they just turn into these
dicks,
giant men turtles that don't know how to fight or talk or anything, and they just stalk the sewers of New York. It sounds like an awesome horror movie.
It sounds pretty believable.
Yeah. If it wasn't for Splinter, he would have never militarized these kids into becoming his little personal army to fight crime.
See, now, would they still like pizza, though? Because, I mean, you got Pizza Rat. You could still have Pizza Turtles.
I imagine they would come across pizza in the sewers and they would enjoy it because it's pizza.
Oh, well, that could be their motivation. They come up above land to kill people and take their pizza.
somebody I work with said in this scenario, Shredder would be the one hunting them down to put them out of their misery. I was like, oh man, I like this Elseworld Ninja Turtles movie. That'll never happen.
The merciful angel of death. Hi-ya! Well, now that we've gone down whatever corner that is.
And that was the script for Teenage Mutant Turtles.
Yeah, pretty much. So what was the other movie you watched?
Oh, it was...
memorable.
The Predator.
From
2018. Yeah, right. Directed by Shane Black and written by Shane Black and Fred Decker. And this movie was garbage. Right off the top. This movie sucked. And it feels like there was a much better movie that was supposed to be released, and it got cut down to what was actually put out. But even that movie that is better than this one, still not that good. This was terrible. I hated this. There were a couple of really good moments that I really liked. Like, my favorite part of the whole movie is when the regular Predator... So Matt and I have both seen this, so we're going to do spoilers for the Predator if you haven't seen it. So the first Predator, the one who's trying to help people by killing everyone...
Yeah.
He gets into the back of a military transport truck and kills everyone. And the guy driving the truck is like, hey, what's going on back there? And the Predator picks somebody's arm off of the floor and puts the thumb up and then just sticks it through the window with the thumb up. The hand comes through the window with like thumbs up, and the driver's like, oh, you wacky guys. And I went, well, that's my favorite part of the movie right there, because it's so
over the top and weird.
Yeah, it was so silly. And I was like, you know what? That was funny. This movie needs more of that. And I feel like it tries for that a lot, but the actors in it are the worst. The guy that I like the most is Sterling K. Brown, and he plays like the head scientist guy for the military. I'm not entirely sure what he is, but his name's Traeger, and I liked his character until like he just becomes like mustache twirling, and he just becomes a bad guy, and then he's like, I guess I'm a good guy for the next 20 minutes. The main guy is played by Boyd Holbrook, who I couldn't remember what else I'd seen him in, but he's the bad guy from Logan. He's the guy with the middle arm.
With the middle arm.
And I just don't think I care for this guy.
No, he's bad.
I didn't really like him in Logan. Like, he does a good job in Logan, but in this movie, he's almost the same character. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, okay, you got one note. And this is it.
Well, and he's supposed to be, more or less, he's the protagonist, so I guess he's supposed to be likable. But
and he's not.
It's just nothing really to really like about him. It's like, well, he's not trying to do anything terrible, but so far the most charming person here is the bad guy.
Yeah, and Olivia Munn is like the chick, and she's got nothing to do in this movie.
No,
and
she's just there to be eye candy.
And I think she does a bad job at that. Like, I don't think it's her fault. I think it's the way the movie shoots her. But she looks terrible in this. I thought she looked awful. I was like, what is wrong with Olivia Munn?
I never have seen Olivia Munn not look completely gorgeous.
Oh,
but I didn't think that the movie gave her a whole lot to do.
No, she had nothing to do in this movie until the end when she learns, oh, God. I don't even want to get started.
No, we watch the movie. That's what we do.
I don't want to. That's true. Get me started.
We review movies. This is what we do for the people, Nick.
And then I'm sorry if I'm brutalizing his name. Trevante Rhodes plays Nebraska Williams, who's like the guy who tried to shoot himself in the head but missed. He's pretty good in this movie until about 3/4 of the way through, and then they forgot he was in it. And then he's just not really, he doesn't have anything to do for the rest of the movie until the end when he's just like, oh, I guess I'll just sacrifice myself then, right? Okay, great. Because this spaceship
has an engine.
Yeah. And it's bad. I hated the kid. I thought the kid was terrible.
The kid was awful.
And the whole, he's got Asperger's or...
Yeah, the whole plot
or he's on the spectrum or something is so ridiculous. It's so bad.
Well, and it's like, completely inconsistent throughout the movie, too.
Yeah. And also, like, I don't know how long it took to shoot this movie, but the way he looks at the beginning and at the end of the movie, he looks like he's like 4 years older at the end of the movie. I'm like, did this kid go through puberty while they were making this? Because it really looks like it. Keegan-Michael Key is in this movie, and I usually really like him, and in this movie he's just kind of obnoxious.
Yeah, obnoxious is the word that was coming to mind.
He's really got nothing to do either except to make bad jokes, and they just don't land. Thomas Jane is in this, and I liked Thomas Jane. I thought he was pretty good.
He was even
one
though
of the more
likable people. Even though
he's pretty one note.
Yeah, they give him stupid stuff to do too. What he's like always shouting something out in a makeshift Tourette's thing, right?
Yeah. I think this story would have been better if these people weren't all like convicts or something, or just crazy. Like, because one, that's never really clear. Are these guys all in jail or something? Because some of these guys tried to murder or did murder people, and other people have tried to commit suicide, and those are two very different things.
This is true. Ding, 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 ding.
So I don't understand why they're all on that same bus together, but this should be his team from the beginning. They should all just be together from the beginning, or he's trying to get back to them in order for the movie to advance, rather than they all just meet on a bus and decide to take on a predator. That was dumb. It's dumb. But yeah, this movie's stupid.
Yeah, and if you're wondering how I came to hate this movie after when I reviewed it originally and said, it's pretty decent, I have seen reviews and more clips, and every time I see a clip from it, the reviews haven't swayed me that much, but every time I see a clip from it, I'm like, how did that not annoy the hell out of me in the theater? Every single thing that's actually a cut from the movie, I'm like, how did I not hate that?
Yeah.
This movie was terrible. I think I must have gone in with my expectations as low as they could possibly be.
Right. I mean, it's also fine to enjoy yourself at a movie. You know, that's fine if you had a fun time at a movie. You know.
But I don't know how I did.
I don't either. I don't know what happened to you that day. Like maybe you just had a really good day.
You were like a really bad day. It was like anything but whatever was going on before this.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's pretty bad. My favorite line in the movie is from the trailer, where Sterling K. Brown is like, yeah, we're calling it the Predator because it seems like it hunts people. And she's like, well, that should be a sportsman. And then Sterling K. Brown's like, nah, but we all voted Predator was cooler, right? And I was like, that's pretty funny. And then they try to bring it back later.
Yep.
Like the fact that like Olivia Munn, like they should just kill her off. Like she's got no business in the movie. There's no reason for her in this movie other than I guess they needed a girl and it couldn't be the mom. I just don't understand, like, why she isn't killed off in that scene where she clearly should have been killed off, because then they hit the guy with a bike. They run over a guy with a motorcycle and then drive away and then just abduct her. And this was terrible. I hated this. I really did. It's got some pretty good parts, but the bad is so out there. Like some of the special effects are just the worst. The blood and gore effects. The gore effects were actually pretty good. Like the beginning of the movie has the one army guy who gets like skinned alive, like the predators like to do to people. And he didn't have a whole lot of time to do it, so he just kind of half-assed it. And then the main character slices him in half and his guts fall all over the predator. And I was like, this is cool. This looks really cool. And then later you've got terrible digital blood. You've got really, really bad CGI. Like the super predator that they fight, it just looks terrible. And there's a sequence when they're on the predator ship and they're flying away and the one dude's legs get cut off because of the shield that comes on the ship. Like, and it just looks like a cartoon character fell off the back of the airplane. I was like, wow, that's really bad. Like you could just tell while they were making this movie that they just gave up on it. And I don't really know why. Apparently there is a much longer version of this that I would hope is better, because I can feel that there's a better story than the one we actually got. You can just tell that where the cuts happen, because there are sequences where someone just comes out of the, like Theon Greyjoy is in this movie and he plays someone for some reason because that's his job as an actor, and he's outside with the gang of the crazy people, and then they cut back to the main guy coming outside with Theon. And you're like, oh, there was like a whole scene inside with Theon. And you're like, oh, okay, well, there should be a reason why he's in this movie other than to be dead meat. Like, I just don't get it. It's the casting decisions in this movie were really weird too. Like, it just seemed, hey, who's around the studio today? Hey, Jake Busey, get him in here. I love Jake Busey. The dude from Dead Man on Campus, absolutely bring him in. And so they're just in the movie. It's crazy. I was reading the internet trivia on IMDb for it, and apparently Jake Busey is playing the son of Gary Busey's character from Predator 2.
Oh, okay.
And that's a movie I would like to go back and watch. I'll probably watch that this week because I haven't seen Predator 2 since forever and a half ago. I don't really remember it at all.
I remember not thinking it was good.
Oh, no, I know it's not good.
Yeah.
I know it's bad, but still got to watch it. I don't ever want to watch Predators again. That movie sucked. I hated that, too.
Yeah. Yeah, that one wasn't fun.
No. This movie at least it tries to be fun. It tries for it, and then it falls into formulaic action crap, but like it does have some of the Shane Black snappy dialogue, but a lot of it feels really forced, and much of it is really poorly delivered.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's because the actors were just that bad, or that was the best take that they had for some of this stuff, but some of it is just like you could tell how it, like you can feel how it was written, and the way it's delivered is slow, or it was supposed to be all one line, and then they like split it up between two lines, and then there's a cut in there, and you're just like, man, this is rough. I feel bad for Shane Black for this. Like, I blame him because he's taken responsibility for it. Like, you know, it's his movie, but this does not feel like a Shane Black movie. This feels like something he was involved in, and it was taken away in order to make an under 2 hours action movie.
Yeah, it feels like stuff was chopped out, but it also feels like more could have been edited out when it comes to like all the dialogue that's not good, you know, jokes. That
Yeah, you could have totally cut this down to like an easy hour 30, and I think it's an hour 45. Yeah, just over an hour 45. You could easily cut another 15 minutes out of this, and it would have been... I don't think adding stuff to this is going to make it better, but it'd be a little more interesting.
I think there are supposed to be a couple things that were like, I don't really remember all the details, but I think there were a couple things that just didn't make sense. And like they would make more sense if there was a little bit of dialogue between Olivia Munn and the person she was talking to in the scenes that were taken out, but they were taken out because it turned out he was a pedophile. Allegedly. And
who's that?
I don't remember the name, but it was one of Shane Black's friends, allegedly. And like people were kind of pissed off that he kept him in there because they're like, we think you knew that he was allegedly a sex offender, and I don't know if he did or not, but either way, they took that stuff out, and I think there might have been a few scenes that without it in there made less sense.
Oh, okay. Well, you can feel it. They should have just reshot it with a different guy. It's just, you can really feel it. And then the end of the movie makes no sense at all. It makes no
like
sense.
The very end?
Well, not the very, very end, but like the end of the main story where Olivia Munn shows up and she found the camouflage ball somehow in the middle of the woods at night and then knows how to use it. And then she was able to chase down a spaceship tens of miles away in order to jump on its back to save the day. It was so stupid. Also, the Predator dog never had anything to do. That didn't come to anything.
Yeah.
So
it's true.
I did like that the one dude shoots it in the head and then it like lobotomizes it and it just becomes like a friendly dog. But why do the dogs have predator hair? They try to explain it at one point where they're like, what's with the dreadlocks? And they're like, I don't know, maybe it's for sensory something. And I'm just like, yeah, I mean, our dogs have ears, but they don't look like human ears. or you know, like when a dog has a human haircut.
I want to see that freaky dog.
Like when a dog has a human haircut, it's either horrifying or very cute, but it's definitely odd. And all these predator dogs have predator haircuts, and you're just like, what? This is bad. Just make them look like alien dogs. Just make them space dogs, like they just keep calling them.
I think we'd understand that they came from Predator world, even if they didn't have predator faces.
Right, exactly. Also, the end of this movie is terrible, too, because my wife came down about 3/4 of the way through, and she was like, so what's going on? I was like, oh, it's terrible, and blah, blah, blah.
It's a good
and
summary.
then the last time I watched the first Predator was when I found out she had never seen Predator. And then we put it on and she fell asleep. And she's watching this one and I'm like, well, at the end of all the other Predator movies, when the Predator is about to die to the hero, he sets off a nuclear bomb or threatens to set off a nuclear bomb. So I imagine that's what the Super Predator is going to do. And it just doesn't. He just shoots him in the face and the movie's over until the end sequence. Where
he gets his new suit.
Yeah. You know what I really thought was going to happen with that was it was going to be a sexy lady Predator.
Well,
I expected...
I'm glad that didn't happen.
I'm disappointed it didn't because Predator
sure
came all this way. This Predator came all this way just to deliver a gun.
Well, it's
for
an Iron Man
kid.
outfit.
Yeah. But the door first opens up. I thought we were going to see like Predator boobs come out with like sexy Predator legs. And we're like, oh, it's a lady Predator. She must be the advanced killer. And now it's just a gun. It's just a gun in a box.
You know what? I was gonna type in sexy Predator to send you a picture. But as I type it in, sex predator registry is the first thing that pops up. I don't think I want to hit search on this. So I'll leave you to do that on your own time. Enjoy.
Stand by. Yeah, this one will do. And off it goes.
Of course. Of course. Oh, Lord.
We were robbed of that.
Really? It is just a predator with boobs.
With boobs. And it wears a bikini.
Yeah.
So that's all I got for The Predator. They got to give up on this franchise. It's over.
Yeah, let it be. Well, moving on then.
Yes.
Let's see. I'm waiting for that movie to come out. Sexy Alien versus Sexy Predator. All right, Jojo Rabbit. Do you know anything about the plot to Jojo Rabbit?
Yes. It is about a boy who's imaginary in Nazi Germany whose imaginary friend is Hitler.
Correct. And so this kid is like basically a Hitler youth. He really wants to be a Nazi. His dad's gone to fight in the war, and his mom, played by Scarlett Johansson, is taking care of him at home. And Hitler, played by Taika Waititi, and this movie is like written and directed by Taika Waititi too, is goofy and kind of likable and also Hitler. So that's kind of strange. And for maybe the first few minutes of it, I thought it was kind of odd, but it kind of got the feel of the movie after a while. It's like, oh, this is kind of, it's quirky. It's weird. It's kind of quaint in a way. And throughout the movie, I'd say, I don't know, maybe you'd benefit from not reading the description of the movie because some things that happen were explained in the description. But he does have a reason to interact with a young lady who is Jewish. And so throughout the movie, you're seeing him kind of interact with her in these ways that aren't, it's not quite your normal, like, oh, just this person just opens up to this other person. The dynamics stay pretty interestingly combative throughout the movie, but it ends up being a pretty touching film. There at least one moment that's pretty gut-wrenching. It is a pretty sad moment. There's even a little bit of action in the movie that's kind of interesting, and the mixture of tones in this movie is such that if it weren't done carefully, it would be an offensive mess. It would just be utterly messy and problematic. But it's done really well in this movie. And with the performances being as great as they are, and like both of these kids are amazing. Like the main kid, Jojo, he's incredible. That actor is just amazing. And throughout the entire movie, really, like the performances are really good. And the color scheme, like the aesthetics and the palettes are really neat. Like this movie is really, really gorgeous to watch. And I guess I don't have a whole lot more to say about it. I feel like there could be some in-depth discussion of like this kid kind of contemplating things and trying to understand how he feels about things and almost trying not to understand how he feels about things at certain points. Because there are a lot of moments where he runs into a degree of like questioning himself and doesn't want to. And it's very human. It's very realistic. and believable. And he's got these interactions with this friend of his who's another Hitler Youth, and the two of them together are great. It's there any scene with the two of them on screen together, it's adorable. I really do recommend this movie. I was watching it with my girlfriend and her mom, and I know about halfway through, the two of them both said, like, I don't know what I think of this. This feels kind of weird. And I was like, yeah, it is kind of strange, but I feel like it's going somewhere. And then by the end of the movie, it was really satisfying. And it was just yesterday that I watched it, but I feel like the further I get from it, the more and more and more I'm going to like it. And even Scarlett Johansson, who's not really a actor I tend to like care for her performance as much, I think she does a good job in it too. And all the characters are really interestingly written. They're all believable, but also unique. Every character's got something and it's not unique in an M. Night Shyamalan. Each person has some sort of stupid foible kind of thing, but just they seem like real people. And yeah, I strongly recommend it.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch it.
You're gonna.
It's one. I know. And that's why I haven't watched it yet. Is because I have so much pressure on it. Where I'm like, oh, I don't want to not like it, so I just won't watch it. So then I watched The Predator again.
And next time you might want to watch Jojo Rabbit.
Yeah, we were going to watch it not too long ago because my wife also wants to watch it. And I was like, I don't want to watch that. Let's watch something dumb. And I forget what we watched. But it's another one of those things where I don't want to think about stuff. Give me something I don't have to think about. So I still have to watch his other one, The Hunt for the Wilder People. I still haven't seen that.
Oh, it's a Taika Waititi movie too?
Yeah. I think it came out either just before or just after Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to see that. I didn't realize that was one of his movies.
Yeah.
I hear that theaters are shutting down, so catching things at the movies may not be much of an option for a while.
No, we won't be seeing that Fast and the Furious 9 movie for another year. They pushed that back a whole year. They pushed Bond all the way back to like Christmas, which is, I think, a better release date. Bond always is a Christmas thing. It's not a summer movie. Because in the summer, you don't want to wear a tuxedo. You want to wear a tuxedo in December when it's cold.
Fair point, I guess.
Imagine running around in August with a tuxedo. You'd be like, God damn it, it's hot.
You know.
All right. Well, I guess it's time for our movie rankings.
Are we ranking them? Or
hey, wait, our movie ratings list.
Did you
5 on 5?
Whatever you were supposed to do with your algorithm
Nope.
to tell us this week how last week's movies lined up?
Didn't. I forgot about it until the show was about to start and I was getting all my stuff set up and I went, oh, right, I'm supposed to do something. So stand by for that. Yeah. So, Matt, what score do you think I will give Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse?
I'm going to go with 4.5.
4.5. Okay. All right. So, plot for Spider-Verse, I'm going to give it a 4.5 because it's a solid plot. It makes sense and it works the entire time. You're never confused, really. And even the little things about the plot, like how in the Miles Morales universe, the police department is called PDNY, but they never really go out of their way to explain that. It's just that's because it's normal to them in this universe, and it shows you how this world is separate from the world you know.
I see.
And it's just a nice little way of saying, hey, things are the same but different, and we're not in your regular playground.
It's close enough that you can relate, but different enough that you know it's not home.
Right. Acting, I am also going to give a 4.5. I think the voice acting in this is spectacular. I wish Nicolas Cage had a little bit more to do, or he really caged it up a little bit more. But, he's fine. He's totally fine. Pacing, this gets a 5. The movie moves along. And it's long, too. Like, I think it's just under 2 hours long, and it is brisk. Like, it moves like crazy. The aesthetic, it gets a 5. Everything about this movie is gorgeous, from just the style to the way everything sounds. Like, even when Spider-Man is running along the side of a building, every so often they'll just put a text sound effect, like as if you were reading a comic book, where like his foot squeaks against the window or he like jumps, and they'll just write tap. or something. And it just, in your head, you can hear that with the sound, and they don't overdo it. They don't do it all the time or with every step. It's just every so often. It's just a little sprinkle of magic in there where you're just like, ooh, it just pulls you in a little more.
Yeah.
Enjoyment of this movie. This movie gets a 5 for enjoyment. I enjoy the hell out of this movie. I love it. It's wonderful. Everyone should see it.
Well, that's a 4.8 right there.
All right.
But my 4.5 is going to drag it down to probably like a 4.7. This system makes nothing but sense.
What do you think I'm going to give The Predator?
I'm going to go with 2.
A 2. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm taking into consideration that you're more generous with things than I would be when I sound the way you do when you're talking about things, if that makes sense. Anyway, go ahead.
The plot for this movie is stupid. It's incoherent and it makes no sense. It gets a 1. That's a 1. Okay. The acting in this movie is terrible. Everyone is bad except for a few moments here and there. And the few moments that are there, I like. So it gets a 1.5.
All right.
Pacing, I will give it credit. The movie does move along very quickly. It never really feels very long. There are a few moments where you're just kind of done with it, but it's not a problem. But you're just like, how are they going to get to the end? Oh, it's just over. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So I will give it a 3 for pacing.
Okay.
And then the aesthetics of the movie, it's pretty bland looking. The special effects are bad. The sound is fine. Everything kind of sounds fine. Not enough Predator clicking. There's a lot of Predator growling, but not enough clicking for my tastes. It's like they wanted to redo the way it sounds, and it just doesn't work for me. So I'm going to give this a 2 for aesthetic.
Okay.
And then overall, my enjoyment of the movie, I'm going to give it a 2.5. Because it was still entertaining. It was over quickly. I would watch it again if it was on. I'm never going to go out of my way to watch this again, but if it was on and I had nothing to do, I'd be like, all right, fine, I'll watch this. So 2.5.
All right, and that is a 2.
Oh, solid 2, you nailed it.
Yep.
That means something, I guess.
Okay, so I'm going to go in the same order I reviewed things. So first one, The Forest.
So I'm going to say you're going to give this a 1.5. That's my guess.
All right. Well, I hope you have a calculator out. Well, I guess we're not going to know whether you're right or not. Story, I am going to give it a... What am I talking about? The Forest.
The Forest.
I'm going to give the story a 1.5. The acting, I am going to give a 1.5.
Oh, okay.
The pacing, I would give I don't know if any parts really lag a lot more than other parts. I guess I give the pacing like a 2. Okay. I mean, it's not really all that far off. It's just not good the whole time. Yeah, 2's fine. Okay. And that is the felt pace. The pace I felt the movie was moving at was the pace of bad. Aesthetics, really, I don't think, other than the fact that the actors are attractive people, the movie itself, like aesthetics-wise, really didn't have anything special to offer. The imagery that was supposed to be creepy wasn't very creepy, so 2. I mean, it wasn't hideous to look at. It's not like one of those movies where you're like, ugh, this is just ugly, but it had nothing to bring to the table. Enjoyment, I will give this movie a 2.
Wow, more 2s than 1.5s. Who knows what that equals?
Oh, yeah, all right. Good luck guessing. Fighting with my family. See, I'm not going to do it with a calculator while I'm the one going through it because I'll lose track.
Right. I think you'll give this movie a 2.5.
Okay. Let's see. Story-wise, it's so middle of the road. I'm going to give the story a 2.5. Acting was really good. I'm going to give the acting a 4.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The pacing. The pacing was fine. I'm going to give the pacing there might have been a few places that seemed a little slow, but some of the effect of that might have just been everything being so predictable that it felt like watching this movie as a kid might be pretty nice. Like as maybe like a teenager, like a young teenager. Because you're not just like used to all the beats as much. But at this age, watching it and just knowing everything that's coming probably made it feel slower than it actually is. I give the pacing a 3.5. Aesthetics, nothing real special here. There's more character design than there is design in terms of like shots or anything. So 3.5. And then enjoyment. How much did I enjoy it? I probably enjoyed it at about a 2.5, 3. 2.5's fine.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And then finally, Jojo Rabbit.
All right.
I think you're going to give this movie a 4.
That might be about right. Story-wise, I'm going to give this movie a 4. Acting, I can't not give it a 5.
Wow.
I want to ding it a smidge, but, because Scarlett Johansson's performance isn't amazing, but it's more than good enough. And the rest of the performances are so good. Oh, by the way, Sam Rockwell's in this, and he does a really good job too. So the performances that are great are just so good. I just have to give it a 5. Pacing's on point. It's not a very important part of it, but there's nothing wrong with the pacing at all. So like 4.5. The aesthetics were incredible, so I'm giving that a 5. And enjoyment, I think I've got to give it a 4.
Pretty good movie then.
Yeah,
we'll have to see what the computer comes back with on that.
Yeah, we'll
on
see.
That calculation. Matt, anything for Midwest Matt recommends this week?
Yeah, you know what? For anyone out there who played I know a lot of people play these games on computers, but if you're like me and you really only play video games on consoles, and I don't play video games that much, but I played the hell out of Civilization, I guess 4. That came out for Xbox years ago, and I just discovered that Civilization 6 is on Xbox. You can download it, and it's not perfect. The controls are a little janky, and there's not much explanation unless maybe you play through the entire tutorial, which for some reason you can't save in the middle of, even though it's like hours long. There's not much explanation for a lot of the things on the screen, and it's a little hard to find online because most of the things that are written out are for the computer version. So there are some real drawbacks, but I started playing it earlier this week and it's fun. I missed Civilization and I didn't want to play the old one again anymore because I put so many hours into it before that it was like, okay, I ran this through like a tape that doesn't make noise anymore. You know, like you're playing old tapes right. And it starts to slow down. That's how that felt. But this breathes some new life into it. And I'm enjoying it. So if you're into the Civilization game and you want something on your console, you might want to check it out.
All right, yeah. I love the Civilization games. I haven't played the 6th one yet, but I played the hell out of the 4th one on my PC. I have the 5th one, I think, but I don't think I liked it as much as the 4th one. But I've watched a lot of people play Civilization 6 on YouTube.
Okay.
And I am terrible at that game, apparently. like I don't know how to do anything according to these other people who will like build a farm where you're supposed to build a farm instead of just telling the workers to do auto work, which is what I would just do. Like, I'll build a worker and just say, oh, you just go build everything. You take care of it.
So far,
I'm just going to work on building a tank.
So far it feels a lot like taking Civilization 4 and treating it as though that was a tutorial for an actual game, and then this is like the actual game in comparison, in terms of it being more complicated and having a lot more bells and whistles and little things you can tweak that half of them I don't know what they are yet.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's pretty, and at least for me, it gives me a little bit of the same feel and joy of the other one.
Yeah, that's a game you can easily lose 6 hours on.
Oh god!
You look up and you're like, oh, I'm just gonna do one more turn, and then it's 6 hours later, and you're like, yeah. Oh.
Well, every time you finish a turn, you're like, well, wait, now that I did that, I got to do the next thing. Or they're like,
right.
You finished your turn. Now the computer people are going to do their turn. You're like, oh shit, now I got to respond to that.
Right. All those careful moves I made are now worthless.
Or you finish a turn and it's like, you learned writing. And I'm like, oh shit, I learned writing. That changes everything.
Yeah, it's a good series. Hey, if you want to send us an email or contact us on the social networks and tell us what you saw in movies this week, please do so. You can send us an email at thisweekinfilmpodcast@gmail.com or find us at This Week in Film Podcast on all the social networks. You can find links to it on our website if you're willing to do the work.
Don't go to our website.
thisweekinfilm.com. It's getting worse. I keep messing it up more. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. I think I might have to
clean.
I think I'm gonna have to nuke it and start over. Yeah. So that's the update on the website everybody wants to hear about. And Matt, anything else for this week?
Nah, I'm good.
All right. Well, I guess if that is the end of the reel, we'll see you next week in film.
And as always, judge movies, not people.
Except for the president.
He sucks.
Sucks. He sucks.
He's
then it's President Trump.
Yeah.
He's the worst.
Yeah, just in case you're listening to this, hopefully next year when it's a different president. We're talking about Trump. He's a cocksucker asshole.
If he allows there to be elections because of the disease.
Oh, God.
He's a terrible, terrible
I'm already
man.
mad now.
Yeah.